Worried about diplomatic and military ties with China, the White House has reportedly rejected a proposal to sell Taiwan 66 new F-16 jets. Instead, the U.S. has cut a deal to sell Taiwan nearly $6 billion worth of equipment and weapons to upgrade its fleet of 145 F-16s. The Obama administration could make the formal announcement as early as Wednesday. Investigative reporter Wayne Madsen says President Obama is caving to right-wing members of Congress rather than listening to seasoned diplomats.
Weapons to Taiwan is an indication that Obama is under a lot of pressure to ratchet things up with China. But let's face it, China holds our debt for the most part. And this kind of brinkmanship with a country like China probably isn't good for international relations, or at least relations within the East Asia area.
China firmly opposes U.S. arms sales to Taiwan and is calling on the Obama administration to abide by a 1982 joint U.S. China communique. Although no definitive conclusions were reached with President Ronald Reagan, the U.S. did declare its intent to gradually decrease its sale of arms to Taiwan.
We made our first deal with Richard Nixon, and then we made a further deal with Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, and here there are people in Washington who want to set the clock back, obviously pre-Nixon.
The Pentagon is bracing for backlash, which could include limiting cooperation on arms proliferation. In 2008, there was a temporary but complete break in military ties between the U.S. and China. In 2007, the China military blocked USS Kitty Hawk from making a scheduled Thanksgiving Day port call to Hong Kong.
China cut off visits before, both high-level U.S. military officers from Pearl Harbor, for example, visits of U.S. Navy ships to Chinese ports. Even during those situations, it hasn't really had much of an effect on trade and finance because, for one thing, China is totally dependent on trade with the United States, and the U.S. is totally dependent on China as far as them holding our T-note.
A recent editorial in the People's Daily, the ruling Communist Party's newspaper, stated China should use financial weapons against the U.S. if it sells new F-16s to Taiwan. Last year, a Chinese general urged financial warfare to punish the U.S. by calling in some of China's U.S. Treasury debt holdings, currently estimated at more than $1 trillion. Rhonda Pence, Press TV, Washington.